One good thing about fighting these Harbingers, they had great stuff, and so much of it that I couldn't carry it all. While the weapons were new, they'd been badly mistreated. I found one carbine that looked like some pony had used it to mix up soap. I repaired my armor as well as I could. Even I could swamp out damaged plates. When I was finished, I had one anti-machine rifle slung across my back, a couple apple grenades, and a second suit of combat armor. The food I kept. Maybe Glory could test it for mind control drugs. The rest was stashed in the cab of the steam shovel. Then, much to the complete bafflement of Psycho-Shy, I gathered up the bodies of the ponies that I'd killed and put them into a hole the red scorpions had used as a nest. The brown mare I'd tried to save was put in last. She had a slice of bread for a cutie mark. What had her name been? Had she been a ganger? A reaper? Had she lived in a village I'd failed to save? Had she come from some distant place, lured by the promise of a better tomorrow? Family? Friends? Children? She'd known how to fight. She'd been better with her battle saddle than I was with mine. She tried to kill me. I'd killed her. That wasn't my fault. But damn how I wish there'd been some better way. After lying her on top, I backed away and floated 2 grenades over the rock face. Then, when they were wedged in place, I flicked away the tabs and ran. The 2 exploded, and the moment later, a chunk of the face tumbled into the hole. I looked on as the dust swirled and stilled. There was no sign at all of anything that lay beneath the rubble. The 4 watched me. Boo in confusion, Rampage in concern, and Psycho-Shy in wariness. The dealer? His pale eyes held nothing but pity. Come on, let's go. P-21's waiting, I said as I turned and headed for the slope to the south. The gray and yellow rocks lay behind me, now still as the bodies they interred. 1,000 years from now, maybe they'd be unearthed. Hopefully, in a better tomorrow. Loaded down with a mother-of-all rifles, seriously, this thing was bigger than the IF-100 Thunderhoof, and we'd be getting to Deus's autocannon territory. We trotted over our way past the medical center as rapidly as we could. The ponies at the entrance gave us the pass-through at once. I spotted Splendid and Archie talking off to the side, and they waved me over. I paused to pass Rampage, the Med-X, and Fixer. Take this up to Glory, please. Ah, do I have to? I was thinking of seeing if I could make myself so numb that my legs would turn to jelly. That's a pretty fun sensation. I gave her a firm look. I just wasn't in the mood for jokes. She sighed and rolled her eyes. Seriously, Blackjack is no fun. All right, I'll get it to her. She snorted as she trotted for the stairs. You'd think there was a well-armored cult of fanatics out to kill you or something. Psycho-Shy went with her. Boo, as usual, stayed close to my side. Archie looked at me and flushed at once. But Splendid looked just, well, splendid. The blue-maned unicorn brushed his back and gave me a look that weeks ago would have turned my insides all buttery. Instead, his look made my insides twinge reflexively, and I gave a polite yet firm smile back. His own smile slipped a little, then shifted into a more friendly and less trying to get me in bed look. A smooth operator. Blackjack, is everything all right with you and your friends? He asked calmly as Archie started to open his mouth to speak. The nerdy buck suddenly looked sullenly at the handsome unicorn. The eggheads were restocking their supplies and setting up new beam turrets. I was glad to see that they were going to try and use this place for healing rather than strip it bare. Of course, if they'd restocked it sooner, it might have saved me the trip to Megamart. From the many strange and sickly ponies hanging around it, it was clear that it was needed. And anything that took recruitment from the Harbingers was good news to me. Everything's fine for the moment. How are things with your father? I replied. Boo yawned, curling up on the floor and taking a little nap. Splendid sighed and rubbed his nose. My father had some choice words about the idea of placing him in a stasis pod. Did he say, no self-respecting king rules from a fridge, or something like that? Archibald adjusted his glasses as he spoke. Splendid allowed just a little bit of his irritation to show. Yes, those were the words that he chose, Archibald. I believe he also included the words, you feather-brained nincompoop, Archibald said. Splendid's eye twitched a little. Why, yes, Archibald, I think he did say that. How silly of me to admit it. What was I thinking? I think you were trying to improve your reproductive odds with blackjack, Archibald said. I'm fairly certain you were going to offer blatant and obvious praise of her appearance, ability, and intellect next. I couldn't help but smile in amusement as one of Splendid's perfectly groomed ears, hairs flopped free. Perhaps you'll suggest some sort of classically romantic venue back in Elysium. Thank you, Archibald! Splendid said sharply as he whirled on the buck. His lips curled up into a tight grimace. Finally, he sighed and brushed his mane back into place. Anyway, Father refuses to let us put him in a stasis pod, so it will be interesting if he lasts till the anniversary ball. If he'd just pick a successor, the prince murmured with a frown. There's a 92% chance that he would be assassinated by his successor within 24 hours of the announcement, Archibald replied as he pulled a frame of the beads on it out of... Wait, where'd that come out of? He rapidly slid the beads back and forth on the frame. So I estimate only a 3% chance that he would make such an announcement in the near future. In other words, King Awesome wasn't King Stupid. Well, I'm glad to see that you ponies are trying to make something out of this place, I said as I looked towards the emergency room and the ponies receiving treatment. Splendid sighed. Yes, well, while I hoped to use the technology here to help the society having an outpost here in the north is useful. And of course, there's offering to help ponies who need it. Archibald nodded. And this facility will some to be vital to the collegiate, if it's ever going to produce steel pony implants in sufficient quantity. If we can, then both the college and society will profit from sales. The surgical robot is likewise quite priceless, he said as he put the strange little beaded frame back. Wait, where the fuck did he put it? Was this some kind of freaky egghead magic or something? I sighed and gave a little smile at the pair. Well, we're done here. I'll make sure every pony cleans up before we go. And by the way, thanks for taking care of the bodies. Splendid flushed a little as he said, well, it was the right thing to do. Archibald frowned up at the handsome unicorn. I thought you said it was because they were starting to stink? Splendid smiled at me, and then that stray blue lock popped free again. He put his hoof around Archibald's brown neck and pulled him close. If you'll excuse us, Blackjack, I need to have a word with my collegiate partner in private. And with that, he hauled the collegiate pony away. I smiled and shook my head. Maybe it was petty of me, but with everything going wrong in my life, I had to admit that seeing another pony flustered was satisfying. Boo immediately rose to her hooves and trot after me as I headed into the medical center. I trotted past the atrium and began to climb to the 15th floor. I hoped that the next time we visited, the elevators would be working properly. Not that climbing the flights wore me out. A few sapphire chips and I was right as rain. It just took a while to make it to the top. That, and after 4 flights of stairs, I was carrying the tired Boo the rest of the way up. I started towards Scotch's room when I trotted into the hospital room and found Glory in earlier and noticeably a blue bar inside. I smiled, imagining Glory cleaning up her mess. I poked my head into the bathroom. Say, when did you get demoted to Janet? The Yellowworth pony inside the bathroom jumped to her hooves and spun around to face me. Her orange mane was a bit scraggly, but not really messy. She looked like a pony not long out of the wasteland. She wore bulky, reinforced leather armor and a respirator, and a camera hung around her neck. She cupped a leather bag in her hooves. "Don't shoot!" she shouted, in a drawling accent as she raised her hooves defensively. "Wasn't planning on it," I replied. He pulled off the respirator. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" She licked her lips a little nervously. "Ah, tarnation. I ain't any pony. Call me Chicken. Every pony does," she said as she looked at the massive AM gun across my back and gulped. "Just poking around, trying to find stuff out. Ain't been in Hoofington more than a week." She pointed at the multicolored mare clippings along the floor. Is it true? Is she really here? The mare asked. Who? I said with a frown. Boo sniffed the yellow mare's saddlebags. Said mare looked at the pale pony uneasily and pulled an apple out of her bag as an offering. After one chomp, she had easily made a new friend. Boo licked her lips and gave the mare a friendly headbutt that put Chicken a little at ease. You know? Her. Rainbow Dash? She asked with a nervous little smile. Heard folks down below say she was up here in one of them stasis pods. Was hoping to get me a picture, she said as she lifted the camera from a strap around her neck. Oh yeah. I really did not want to introduce any pony to glory in her current state. We found her in a hidden pod in the back, but she took off for the clouds. Whoosh, she sure can fly. I grinned at the nonplussed mare. Wow, that's unbelievable, she said as she swept up some of the clippings with her hoof. Just a memento. Otherwise, they'll never believe me back in Appaloosa, she said with a grin. Did she say where she was going? I thought fast. Usually, I'd like to have a little more time to consult my fibs. Yeah, flying back to the Enclave to buck their butts into gear. You betcha. She blinked at me in surprise and confusion. Anyway, sorry you missed her. She gaped at me for a second before she shook her head hard. Me too. I mean, Rainbow Dash. That's amazing. Can't believe I missed her. She sighed. I gotta say, though, when I came all the way out here, I didn't know how dangerous this place was. I mean, Appaloosa's no 10 pony, but sheesh. Wars, gangs, crazy cult ponies. Somebody down there mentioned there was some kind of flesh-eating plague, too. Yeah, it contaminates food. If you eat it, you can get sick. Soon you'll be eating any pony in hoof reach. Be careful if you come across any mystery meat or strange food. I'd buy from society if you can afford it. The mare frowned. Not them there volunteer corps? They seem like pretty friendly sorts, back in flank, with good cheap food. I don't believe them there's tales that they're befriending that plague. I hear any pony with feathers can't catch it. Not if Operative Light Hooves has anything to say about it, I muttered, and she widened her eyes even more in a baffled shock. I sighed and covered my face with a hoof. Look, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. Just, your safest bet is to go back to Appaloosa as soon as you can. Hoofington's really getting dangerous. She gave a nervous little grin. Y'all don't say. Seems like every place down here is right tangle of peril. She rose to her hooves. Well, thank you kindly for saving my curiosity, miss. Blackjack, I replied. She blinked, then smiled. Oh, right. The security mare. Well, I'll be on my way. Take care of yourself, she said as she hurried past and left the room, turning to trot straight down the stairs. I frowned after her, then looked around the hospital room. Even if none of the supplies here were particularly valuable, most of them were useful. She hadn't touched anything. Huh. Apparently Appaloosans were a little more twigged than your standard mares. Maybe she'd been too excited about what I told her? First rule in the wasteland. I stood there for a while as Boo just watched me curiously. Funny, now my mane was every bit as itchy as my face.